I didn't know how I was supposed to feel about any of the characters. This is an animated show and there were too many nude scenes. Do I like the fact that it exists? No. It's just the season for this, I guess. Apparently this is a blossoming romance. It made sense till I said it out loud. They would all be dead without him. No, you won't! Because you're human! I hate that so much. Oh, never mind, I figured it out. There was a bit of a brain short circuit, and my first thought was, don't become Arcane, Jesus. Hi guys, we're back for another Nerd Rants video. Today, we're talking about Arcane, which is a show that I have seen stuff for literally everywhere on Pinterest, covers of the soundtrack on YouTube, just everywhere. And I was just like, that looks interesting. Like, the animation looks good. I've seen YouTubers that I enjoy content of, that I've found I enjoy what they read, watch, whatever, and they enjoyed it. I'm like, okay, I'll put it on my list of things to watch. I finally watched it. I binged the 2 seasons in like 3 days because it's short seasons. It was a pretty good show. Probably not top 10 or anything like that. It was not mind-blowing or like an instant obsession or anything like that, but it was a very well done show. The animation was beautiful. It was very well done animation. There were definitely moments where my brain forgot it was animation for like a split second, and then they do something, I'm like, oh wait, no, this is animated. And I have to remind myself because it was very good animation, and I appreciate that quality of the animation. It was so good. Also, the quality of the relationships in the show were so good. Between the found family aspects of it, and seeing how the relationships develop, how they change, because they have two or three time skips throughout the series. Nondescript time skips. I have no idea how long they are, which is interesting. I'm very curious and I would like to know how long they are, but it's also kind of fun that they don't, and you just sort of get to, it's like, oh, this is how much things have changed. Let me just sort of guesstimate where we're at, how long it's probably been. And yeah, you just get to guess how long it's been between that, and you get subtle clues, but it's kind of an interesting concept that they don't just tell you. So that was interesting. But yeah, seeing how the relationships develop and change is very interesting. And they did it, and they handled all of the relationships very, very well. So yeah, there was only like one relationship that I couldn't give a crap about. It was the lesbian relationship that I saw coming like 10 miles away. As soon as characters interacted, I was like, oh gosh, dang it. I knew exactly where I was going. I will say I appreciate the pace they went at with it, at least. It was not as fast as most of those kinds of relationships are. It was not oh, we see each other, we're in love, and we're just, it wasn't that, thankfully. It was more of a slow burn, which, you know, we can appreciate the pacing of it. Like, as far as handling a romantic relationship, they did that aspect well. I was just not invested in any way in the relationship, and I couldn't care less. This is one of those shows where none of the main characters were my favorite characters. All of my favorite characters are side characters. If I had to pick a main character that was my favorite, the Jinx would probably be my favorite of the main characters. The girl is literally insane. And I definitely prefer her in second season when she's more on her own. Like, oh man, first season, I didn't know how I was supposed to feel about any of the characters. Like, I didn't know. There was something that happened. It was like, so dude, this is like the good guy character, whatever else. And then they'd do something, or they'd say something like, wait, how do you want me to feel about the character? And I love it. Like, they did that so well. And it's so good having not having like this super distinct good guys, bad guys. Everybody in the series did something good at some point, or tried to do something good at some point. And all of them also made horrible decisions that they believed were right, but were objectively not. So I loved that aspect of it, having all of the gray, and they're just all across the spectrum. They're not bad or good people. They're just people. And I appreciated that. That was done so well through the entire series. I personally really liked the second season compared to the first season. I watched the first season and I was like, oh cool, this is a cool story. I appreciate how like the relationships and the characters are done, but I wasn't super into it. And I was like, we'll go into season 2 because I was intrigued enough. I enjoyed it enough. We'll go into season 2. I went into season 2 and I think I liked more things in season 2. Not necessarily plot of season 2 or whatever. The plot of season 2 was the plot of season 2. But like plot season 1 had it better. Like the story they told and the villain, like Silco was a wonderful villain. But like the storyline of season 1 I think was better. But I had some things like season 2 with characters and all of that I preferred compared to season 1. Like I preferred season 2 Jinx. I just connected more with her character. And yeah, there were just different things with the characters mostly that happened in season 2 that I enjoyed more than I did in season 1. So it's kind of a toss-up. As far as storyline, definitely season 1 wins. But as far as like the characters and some of the different aspects like emotion and the development of characters and even some of the relationship things that happened, I prefer season 2. This is an animated show and there were too many nude scenes. Never thought I'd say that, in all honesty. Yeah, they especially season 1, I feel like maybe that was part of the reason season 1 was turned off to me, because I don't think there's a need for any nude scenes ever, really. Or if there is a need for a nude scene, they are very few and far between, and there's maybe one per project, show, movie, whatever, one per project, and you don't need to be blatant and show everything all the time, which, yeah, that's a whole rant. It brought my ranking of Oppenheimer down a full star. Like, those conversations did not need to happen with no clothes on. Anyway, different rant. Yeah, I didn't really expect there to be multiple nude scenes in an animated show. Yeah. As I got into it, like, it wasn't necessarily surprising that they existed just because of the vibe of the show. But yeah. There's two off the top of my head. There were more, but like we had a scene that I don't even know how much of a purpose it served. We have Caitlin, whom is honestly I think my least favorite character in the entire show. Anyway, there's just a scene of Caitlin in the shower, and I'm just like, what? And there's no dialogue. It's just flashing between her and something that's happening with Vi, I think, which might be the only reason she has any kind of relevance to the scene that's happening. But she doesn't say anything. I think their goal is to show communicate some sort of emotion happening with Caitlin, but I did not pick up on it. It was short enough and that it didn't communicate much, and I just, no. It was an unnecessary scene, and it's like, why is this here? The other one, it was a character thing. So, like, the nudity was just, because it's, Mel Medarda, I think that's the last name, Medarda's mom shows up, and it's just, like, the vibe we get for her culture and her character. It fits. Do I like the fact that it exists? No. She didn't need to... Anyway, I don't necessarily like the fact that it exists. I sort of just listened to the dialogue and didn't look at the screen. But it does work with her character. I will admit that. It does work with her character. But yeah, I never thought I'd say there were too many nude scenes in an animated show. But here we are. There were a lot of things that happened in this last season of life where I had no idea I would watch something like that, and yet I did. Like Anna and the Apocalypse, Christmas musical zombie movie. Never would have expected that. Homestead, an apocalyptic Christian movie. Never thought those two would go together either, but they did fairly well. And now an animated series with too many nude scenes. It's just the season for this, I guess. But yeah, so that was a thing. But there wasn't really any of that in season 2. It's weird how that's its theme, because that happened in Witcher 2, where the first season had way too many of those kinds of scenes. And then in season 2, there were few to none, and I was like, why? You're just like pushing away all the people who don't want to watch that crap. And I'm just stupid enough to close my eyes and listen to the important part of the scene, or skip through it if there's nothing important. There was one scene I legit skipped through in season 2. And that was Kate and Vi just making out in a jail cell, because apparently this is a blossoming romance. Anyway, there was also animated sex scene exists, and unfortunately it was cutting between an important scene to the plot, so I couldn't skip it. I tried to skip it, and then I realized important things were happening. So then I had to just sit there and go through and watch the important parts. And I don't honestly understand how they connect. I don't remember what the important part of the scene was. So I don't remember how or why they interconnected and why they were cutting back and forth, but they were, so that was fun. Anyway, besides that, I enjoyed the show. The relationships especially, like the characters in the relationships are probably the best part of the show to me. Silco, oh my gosh. I talked about how I didn't know how to feel about characters, especially in the first season. Silco was a huge one because he's the big bad of the season. But then we have his relationship with Jinx, where at first you're like, oh, he's using her, because it kind of feels like that a little bit in the beginning of her introduction, because she kind of like, hey, my sister abandoned me. You're here. I'm gonna hug you. I need some kind of support. And he's like, oh, okay. What do I do with this? This is a child. Sure. And kind of accepts that. And you're like, oh, cool. Kind of adopts her. But like the vibe when we do the time skip right after that is a little bit of like, I don't know if you're like using her or not. And then we get more in depth to the relationship and you realize, no, he really does love her in his own way. It's not necessarily a good way because he's not a great guy, but he does love her. And so I'm like, how do I feel about this? You're kind of toxic as far as Jinx's character development, but you also love her so much. What do I do with this? But yeah, so their relationship was a huge one in season 1. I was so meh about Jinx and Vi's sister relationship. Like, when they were kids and she's like the only one standing by Powder, that was adorable. I loved their relationship throughout those first couple episodes. And then we do the time skip. And then I just didn't like Vi as a character. And then so then I didn't have any investment in their relationship. And it just devolved from there. And maybe one of the reasons I like Jinx more in season 2 is in season 1, she's obsessed with the fact that Vi is hanging out with Caitlyn, and not because she's an enforcer. Like, that's part of it. She's like, oh my gosh, you're with the people who killed our parents, and that, you know, grinds her gears the wrong way. But that's not what sets her over. What sets her over is she thinks she replaced her with Caitlyn. And like, love the concept. But for some reason, it came across weird I don't know why it came across weird to me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that makes no sense, honestly, in my brain anymore. It made sense till I said it out loud. But anyway, yeah. I don't actually know why season 2 characters were better for me. I legitimately don't. But they were, and that's where we're at. So anyway, we're going to talk about favorite characters because, as I said, none of them are the main characters. Jinx is the closest to being a main character that is a favorite, but she's probably 6th in my lineup. And my top 5, yeah, are all side characters. So, okay. I don't necessarily have an order. I think I know who's top character, but the rest of them don't really have an order. I could put together one, but I'm not going to go through that effort of that. So, we're going to start with the least important one. At least they want you to think he's the least important one. I think he's so important to the story. I don't even know if this character has a name. I don't remember. If they said it, it was maybe once. But the more heavyset, drunk enforcer. Like, he's always portrayed as drunk. I'm assuming we all know which one I'm talking about. Vi and Caitlyn have their argument, and Vi goes off to pout under a bridge. And he's there, and they get drunk together. And then they're buds from that moment on. He's wonderful. I love him. And I was... yeah, I have like 5 favorite characters. They killed 4 of them. They killed 4 of them. Potentially 5, because I didn't see the 5th one at the... They may have killed all of them because Echo's fate is unclear. So yeah, we'll talk about Echo after this because I just revealed that. But yeah, so big, kind of drunk, not kind of drunk, very drunk, all the time drunk, enforcer guy. He was wonderful. He's such a bro. Like, he's like, hey, like, we have the flash of Vi being in a fight club, which, whatever, I don't care about Vi's character. Anyway, but he was there. He's like, I'm an enforcer, but I'm here. This is my drinking buddy. This is my squad member, for the short time that the enforcers had a squad going through the lanes looking for Jinx. We're gonna take care of her. We're gonna make sure my drunk, beat up buddy gets home alive. So he's such a bro, and it's great, and I love him. And then he got shot in the throat, and I was so sad. I was legitimately so sad. Ugh. And then Echo. We love Echo. Echo's wonderful. I just love the firelights and in general. Like, they have kind of the owl-looking masks. Obsessed with owly-looking masks. The Court of Owls is one of my favorite DC villains. So, yeah. Owly-looking masks. They ride around on hoverboards. So they're just wonderful. They're just awesome. And then we have Echo, who we get to see his innocence, and then we get to see his innocence taken away from him in the first couple episodes. And then we get to see his development from being, like, him and Jinx being around the same age, so them being kind of besties, to somehow in the time skip that we don't get to see. Because I think partially because Vi doesn't get to see it, because it's a little more from Vi's perspective for a lot of it. So in all of these events that we haven't gotten to see, which is interesting to have, like, no context but sort of have context. It's an interesting layout. Anyway, seeing how far he's gone to the point where he's like, no, Powder is literally dead. Jinx is the only thing that remains, and Jinx is a psychopath. And seeing how adamantly now he's against this, and how far they've drifted and how far they've broken until he can't see any hope for her anymore. And it's so cool. And he's kind of a techie dude. And then later, him and Heimerdinger's relationship is really... them being together is also very fun. Heimerdinger is just wonderful. He's the next one we'll talk about. But Heimerdinger and him together are really fun. And him... I just love Echo's character. It's so good. It's so good. And again, his fate's unclear because Jinx's hot air balloon crashes and then we never see him again. So I don't know if he's dead or not. I don't remember, because like he takes his hoverboard and, you know, saves Vi and puts her up there with Jinx. And I don't remember seeing him fly off of the hot air balloon. And then it crashes, and then I never see him after that. And so I don't know if he's alive or dead. Like, can someone clarify this? Is Echo dead? I feel like he's a character where they would show his death, but it also feels like a show where they totally could just, like, not say anything about the fact that he's dead. They could. He is of little enough importance to the plot, in all honesty. Oh, wait, no. He does come back. Now I remember, because he has to do the time machine thing. That's right. It's not unclear. I don't see him after that though, because he does his whole time thing, and then he kind of just vanishes because he manages to turn back time long enough for Jace to then get control of himself again to talk to Victor. And then they stop it together, but I don't see him after that. And we have a moment when he's building the time machine thing that he goes back to, if he goes back too far, Heimerdinger explodes. So I don't know. That gives me more hope for his survival, but I don't remember seeing him in the closing scenes of the show, so I don't actually know. Maybe I was blind and he showed up, but I don't remember. Anyone remember seeing him after he saved the day? Because he did. They would all be dead without him. I don't know. He's great. I love him so much. And then Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is so good. I love him. He's like the wise old man no one listens to. Like, he's right about everything, and everything in the entire show could have been avoided if they had just shut up and listened to Heimerdinger, because he's been alive for hundreds of years and he's seen how things like this play out. He has more life experience and wisdom than every single person in the entirety of Pentover and the Undercity combined, and nobody listens to him. And then and then when things go haywire, as they obviously do because they didn't listen to him, they then have to ask for his advice to fix the problem that they made because they didn't listen to him in the first place. And it's maddening. Like, I get it. It's understandable. It's realistic that no one would listen to him because they're just like, you're stuck in the past. We're different from those people. We'll do it differently this time. Like, no, you won't, because you're human, and well, most of them. You're human, and you always go this way when it comes to some sort of supernatural power, and you constantly repeat your mistakes, and you repeat the past, and because it's long enough ago that only Heimerdinger has seen it, that means centuries, half of you don't remember or have not necessarily been told about what happened last time the Arcane was brought into existence. And so, the entire plot could have been avoided. Everyone would be alive if they had just freaking listened to Heimerdinger in the first place. And then we could have just had a show about them figuring out how to stop Shimmer and unite the two sides of the city. They could have done that, but they didn't. But they didn't, and they couldn't, because Jace wouldn't listen to Heimerdinger, and neither would Victor. I enjoyed Victor. That's just a sidebar. I enjoyed Victor's character quite a bit, honestly, in the first season, and then that's going to turn to a rant. And then season 2 happened. We'll talk about season 2 plot in a minute. Yeah. Enforcer Dude, Echo, Heimerdinger. Oh, don't tell me I'm blanking. That's awful. That's literally awful. I'm blanking on one of them. I hate that. I hate that so much. Oh, never mind. I figured it out. The other one, the fourth one is Vander. I like Vander. He was there for a few episodes, but he's a wonderful father character, and I love him so much. And he's sweet, and he came back as a kind of a monstrosity, and they got the whole we need to save our dad plot line, or little plot arc, whatever that happened, and it was probably one of my favorite arcs in the series. And it showed the best version of Vi in the entire series. I was like, I kind of like your character in this arc. I like this. And then we got to the end of the arc, and they did worse than kill him. And yeah. And then we got old Vi back, and I didn't like old Vi. But oh my gosh. Vander's fate was awful, second only to my probably favorite character. The fact that he dies, gets turned into a monster, they almost heal him, he dies again, only for, I can't remember Mal's mom's name. I don't remember. Only for her to, Noxus Queen Lady, to basically use the mad scientist man and Victor to bring him back from the dead, bring him back again, but this time as a soulless monstrosity whose sole purpose is to help Victor make everyone android things. I don't actually know what to call them. And then they kill him. They fight, and then he gets killed again when, you know, Echo saves the day. And then he dies again. So the man dies like 3 times. And worse things happen to him in each lifetime, quote unquote. So the poor man's fate is awful and I hate it. But it's also so good because of that. Poor Vander. Okay. Now, we have my favorite character, who of the 4 already mentioned, has the least amount of screen time. She is only there for the first 2/3, I would say, of season 2. But she is my favorite, and she is everything, and she is the main reason that season 2 is better. And we're gonna be completely honest. I'm pretty sure I have her name right, but I was so there was a bit of a brain short circuit when it happened, and then we jumped to an episode about something completely different. My brain short circuited a tiny bit, and I started questioning, but I'm pretty sure I have it right. Isha, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry, because that is awful. She's amazing and I love her. But Isha's wonderful. She's so good. She's just this cute little orphan child living on the streets of the lanes. Jinx saves her life. And brutally, but you know, she doesn't care. She's tiny, she's like 6, and she goes, "That lady saved my life. I want to stay close to her." And so she's, you know, follows her around and she helps her, and she puts herself between Caitlyn's gun and Jinx. And that was the moment I went, "You are my favorite. I love you." 'Cause she's so adorable. And then it got better when we got to see her and Jinx interacting as like sisters, and just the beautiful relationship that they had. And she was the best, and she was so cute, and she was so innocent, and I loved her so much. And then Jace almost kills Victor, which made things worse. It brought out the worst version of Victor, in my opinion. Like, Victor throughout season 2 was, for reasons, real annoying to me. But I was like, oh, he's gonna save Vander. Cool, we have monstrous Vander. That'll be a cool concept that's happening throughout the season, the rest of the season. But no, Jace kills him. Vander goes nuts, and knocks this soldier's attack. And Isha, in all of her wonderful commitment and dedication to Jinx, sees this, understands this is a fate worse than death for this man, loads the hex gems, overloads Jinx's hex gem gun with gems she stole from Vi's gauntlets, which I knew. She looked at the gauntlets and like, she stole them. Overloads the hex gem gun runs through an army of soldiers and gets close enough to shoot Vander straight in his mouth, blowing both of them up in the process because she overloaded the gun. And the piece of my heart that was attached to that was, you know, so attached to this adorable little girl, that little piece of my heart died. And I was legit in shock a little bit. I was staring at the scene. I was staring at the screen, watching these credits roll for a little bit. Unable to formulate a sentence. Because I never thought they'd take Isha from me. My one complaint is that we then jump to Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger being in the alternate universes instead of straight to Jinx's reaction. Because Jinx's reaction would have killed me. Oh my gosh. Just her reaction to realizing that that's what Isha's plan was, and Vi having to hold her back because she knew there was nothing they could do. Just that was heartbreaking to me. So seeing her reaction to the aftermath would have legitimately killed me. I love and appreciate that we got the fate, got to see the fate of Heimerdinger and Echo, and kind of see why it didn't see what happened to Jace, because he comes back in the previous episode and was like, kill all magic, which I was like, they're like, oh, this is weird, he changed. I'm like, and no, it's not. Not actually. But anyway. Yeah, it was... Yeah. A little piece of my heart died that day. Because Isha was a wonderful character. And so innocent. I just... It hurt me. That legitimately hurt me. I was sad. So yeah, those are my 5 favorite characters. Isha is probably top of the list. Definitely top of the list. And the other ones kind of just fall. I think Echo and Heimerdinger are kind of on a level playing field below her. And then Vander might be 5th. And yes, Drunk Enforcer Man is 4th. Because he's just such a bro. And then we have Jinx around 6th, and everyone else falls below that somewhere. I don't know. All I know is Caitlyn's at the very bottom, and Vi is not much farther above her. Most of the series. There's a few moments she might go up a little bit higher, but for most of the series, she's down by Caitlyn. Because I just didn't care about their characters. My favorite parts of the series were in season 2 when Vi wasn't there, and Caitlyn didn't play much of a role. Like when it focused more around the lanes with like Jinx and Isha and different things that were happening, I enjoyed that more. Like the hex gates tainting the Firelight's tree and stuff like that. That was like that was cool, and I loved that. And Vi, it's partially because Vi wasn't there. Anyway, we're gonna do a little rant about season 2 plotline as far as Victor is concerned before we end this. So, as I said, Victor in season 1, I kind of liked him. I enjoyed his character. He was an interesting character, and just the idea of, it's like, hey, he managed to make it to the Pentover from the lanes, and he made a name for himself, and he made a way for himself, despite being obviously from the lanes, being a cripple, all of that. He managed to make a name for himself, and now helping Jace and kind of being a friend to him, and them being able to support each other and all that. And then season 2 happens. We have in season 1, he's sick. Jace is like, hey, we've manufactured magic. We should find a way to use it to save you. They try. Things happen. Victor's love interest dies while he's trying to heal himself, and his last thing is destroy it. We have to destroy it. It is not what we thought it was. It's not a good thing. It killed someone. We need to destroy it. And getting Jace to promise that. And then Jinx blows up the council chamber. And Jace, in all his wisdom, unable to let go of anyone ever, goes to the hex core, I think is what they called it, and uses that to save his life, which in turn turns him into the first words out of my mouth were Arcane Jesus, because the first thing, he leaves Jace, goes to the lanes, and the first thing he does is heal a guy who, was suffering from the side effects of Shimmer. But, basically, healing a leper. That's basically what he did. So the first thought in my brain was, don't become, he's sitting there and he's walking among them, and they come up to him, and my first thought was, don't become Arcane Jesus. And then he did. Only not at all in any way on the same level as Jesus, because it was so twisted. That was just the first thought that came to my mind, because he was healing a dude with skin deformities. It was strikingly similar to Jesus healing lepers. And then, that just develops throughout the entire season, and we get everyone's favorite plot device of the creepy pacifist cult. It happened in Falling Skies in season 4 with Lexi, and it happened here, where they're just creepy pacifists led by their cult leader, who is some all-powerful human thing. Everyone's favorite plot point, right? Plot idea, right? Anyway, so we had that happening. This is part of the reason the storyline of season 2 was not as good, because we had that happening. We had whatever the heck happened with Vi. The best part of the story in season 2 was the Vander arc, and that ended in tragedy. But anyway, yeah. So that was just ugh, and Vander just became more and more annoying. He's like, I know everything, I see everything, I am all powerful, and yeah. And then Jace killed him, and it almost killed him, and then he just got worse. Jace was the problem character. Jace is okay. It's it's Caitlyn way down here, and then it's Vi above her, and then Jace is third last, but he's still way up here. Caitlyn's way down there. Vi is also way down there, and then Jace is way up here, but he's still third last. third to last. But he's so much better than Vi and Caitlin. Because he's the root of every problem in this entire series. So, yeah. Anyway, it's fine. I'm just mad at everyone for ignoring Heimerdinger. And then he has to sacrifice himself to bring Echo back so that Echo can solve all their problems. The main characters didn't even save the day. Jace doesn't count. Jace wouldn't have been able to be like, hey, let's die together, Victor, if Echo hadn't been there. So Echo is the only reason that they are still alive. And Heimerdinger's the only reason Echo's still there. And Isha and Vander are the only reason that Jinx and Vi are alive, and Jinx is probably more of a hero to anyone compared to Vi, and she saved more people than Vi has, in all honesty. And she was the better sister. Yes, she was a psycho for a little bit. She was also being manipulated just a little bit. Like, Silco loved her, but he was still manipulating her a little bit. She was a psycho for a little bit, but then she found a new sister, became better, got some development, was really the good sister anyway. Because the only reason she went to Silco and went insane is because Vi said, you killed everyone we love, you're a Jinx, and then ran into a different alley. I get she's a teenager, but she's your sister. You're like maybe 9-year-old sister who was just trying to help and had no idea, didn't really have any idea what she was doing, really. Like, she knew they were explosive. That's all she knew. She didn't know how big of an explosion. She didn't realize what would happen. It was a huge mistake, but it was still a mistake. She is 9. She didn't understand fully what she was doing. She had a half-baked 9-year-old's plan. And I know you're like 13, but you look at her, say, you killed everyone I love, I hate you, you're a Jinx, and then run away? Ugh. It's like, it's realistic to me, but it's also like, what the heck, Vi? You're 13, but like, you've been forced to grow up faster than that. You should have the maturity to at least turn back sooner than you did. Like, you didn't try to go back to Powder until Silco was there. I don't know. Vi is an awful sister, honestly. Vi is bad sister. Jinx was the good sister. And the reason she was a psycho is because she was manipulated and in the company of a criminal mastermind who was also a little bit of a psycho himself for years. Like, my guess is, for some reason, I guess 10 years. I don't know why I guess that's the time skip, but I do. I have no idea if that's right, because they don't tell me, but that's just my guesstimate. Somewhere around 10 years. So, yeah. No wonder she's a bit of a psycho. And even in season 1, when she finds out Vi's back, she turns on Silco and tries to reconnect with Vi. And the only reason that doesn't work is because Vi is walking around with an enforcer, and Jinx, being twisted up in her brain enough from the life she's lived, goes, first, you are with the people who killed our parents, and then seeing how they interact, because blossoming romance, goes, you replaced me, because she is basically a full-grown adult, but does not have the emotional and mental maturity of an adult because of the life she's lived. And because she's kind of a psycho. Yeah. I don't know. In conclusion, I liked season 2 better, mostly because of Isha. The secondary characters, and even a tertiary character, were the best. Jace is the reason for all of the world's problems in this show. I'm glad he's gone. We're all glad he's gone. Their world is better for it. Everything could have been avoided if anyone had listened to Heimerdinger. And Vi was a horrible sister. Those are my concluding thoughts. I enjoyed this show. Like I said, not top 10 or anything, but I enjoyed this show. If only for Isha and Echo and Heimerdinger and Vander and Drunken Enforcer Man. I enjoyed the show. They did relationships well. They did animation super well. Yeah. I don't know. What do you... Just share your thoughts in the comments. Any recommendations you have. I post videos on this channel on Saturdays until probably the end of the school year. And on my audiobook channel, hopefully Thursdays. Now, I put out a poll on Thursday to nail down which of my 2 options I currently have to do. If you could help me out with that, that would be great. But yeah. Those are my thoughts. Share yours in the comments. I'll see you all next time.